it looks like we, the men and the women, are walking double separate paths. Women are going left and the men are going right because of that mentality of being strong black woman that we also look at as part of the confrontation that make other people think that that's a strength, not knowing it as weaknesses, because we don't seem to agree on anything.
I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that you're seeing all this conflict between black men and black women on social media right now. I believe some of this is being orchestrated. I think some of this is being socially engineered by an unseen hand because the timing couldn't be more perfect. Why is this showing up?
We love our ladies. We do love them, seriously.
Most of them.
And we're talking about conflict and confrontation. You talk about some of our, ladies, kind of label themselves as strong black women. And sometimes I hear those statements, and I don't know that you knew about that statement until you said that, because being the authority in most of these areas, I wanted to see what, because women being the foundation of our nurturing, it looks like we, the men and the women, are walking double separate paths. Women are going left and the men are going right because of that mentality of being strong black woman that we also look at as part of the confrontation that make other people think that that's a strength, not knowing it as weaknesses, because we don't seem to agree on anything. So how is that affecting our foundation as a community, and how can we bypass that?
Yes, sir. Okay. I believe, first of all, it's a minority of our women. Most of our women are strong black women in the right way, in the feminine way. But for those sisters who embrace this masculine version of being strong, where they have to outpower, their male partners for decisions and control and that kind of thing, that's the dysfunctional subset of the queendom that we're speaking of. And I think that this black male-female relationship conflict, this crisis we have, I find it very odd that it coincides with the LGBTQ campaign against our children in the public schools that was started by President Barack Obama. I find it very interesting that it coincides with that. I find it very interesting that it coincides with a media campaign to constantly overwhelm our children with romantic images of not only same-sex couples, but opposite race couples, interracial relationships. When you look at all the commercials, most of them, many of the movies, the sitcoms, the dramas, the TV shows, like all you see is either LGBT relationships or interracial relationships. You do not see black on black love on a consistent basis anymore. There is no more Cosby Show. There is no more, the Jeffersons. You don't see that black on black love on television. You might have one or two shows, but not many. Most of it is either homosexuality or interracialism. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that you're seeing all this conflict between black men and black women on social media right now. I believe some of this is being orchestrated. I think some of this is being socially engineered by an unseen hand because the timing couldn't be more perfect. Why is this showing up? Because we've always had issues between men and women, but it was never to this level, and it was never broadcasted this openly,
this loud.
And so it coincides perfectly with all these other campaigns to convince black children not to settle down with another black person. I believe it's part of the larger agenda to destroy the black family as a pretext to eliminating black people. And, for me, I think the reality shows have played a big part in this because the reality shows are completely based on black romantic dysfunction. That's the entire foundation and theme of every single reality show involving black women. It is dysfunction, dysfunctional black love all the way around. And because they call them reality shows, our children actually think that they're real when in fact they're scripted. And I only know this because I was asked to participate on one as a therapist. They're not reality, they're scripted. But with that being said, you know, I really think that we got to start having conversation. I think we need to also, those of us who believe in black on black love, we need to distance ourselves away from those who don't. You know, it needs to be made clear, where do you stand? You know,
that's right.
You're for black on black love, you're for any kind of love, or you're only for non-black on black love. Like, we really need to be clear, just like we are when it comes to the freedom struggle. I need to know if you're a nationalist. I need to know if you're an integrationist. I need to know if you're a fence walker. Same thing. I need to know if you're for black on black love. I need to know if you're not for black on black love. And I need to know if you're undecided, because we have to separate. You know, as I always say, there has to be an intellectual, cultural, civil war amongst African people, not only in America but globally, because what you see in America, I see it all over the world. Maybe in different levels, but it's everywhere, even the mother continent. You got to separate those, you know, who still believe in black people, believe in black liberation, believe in black on black love. We have to know who we are, because we can't afford to waste time to keep going amongst African people who have given up on their people. If they've given up, why are they in the meeting? If they've given up, why are they part of the conversation? If they don't believe in black on black love or black on black liberation, why are we even entertaining them? We don't have time for that. I'm of the opinion that if black people don't survive the 21st century, we will not survive America.
Well, we got to go. I'm way behind on this break time. We're going to continue the conversation when we come back with Dr. Umar Tunde Johnson and Patrick and Jadu. We'll be right back. And we're back live here in the studios of 96.1 FM. I see you, Patrick, over there. But I just wanted to say, when we were talking about how we got into this condition as a people, I'd say it was by intentional design. They intentionally designed the reality shows. They intentionally designed us to fight amongst and compete with each other. And that is why I said we're just going to have to act with intention, whatever we do. When we think about getting something to eat, we have to intentionally seek out a African-American owned restaurant. When we want to do something, we have to do it with intention of raising ourselves, because they don't have no intentions of us raising. But they're talking about DEI. They talk about diversion and equity and inclusion. They don't want no equity with us. They don't want to be equal to us, because they know how powerful we are as a people. And if we collectively get together, then they would not have as much control over us, and they would not be able to intentionally miseducate us, redirect us away from a progressive. As Dr. Umar said, I thought that America was evolving. I know that they are not in the place that I would have liked for them to be, you know, with their inclusion and that diversion, but I thought that we was at least moving a little bit. But now, after this election, I don't know where it's going to go. And that's why now we have to act with our own intentions. But Patrick, you had a question?
Yes, so you just talk about the DEI, you know, just as a political slogan. It's like a psychological warfare. They make us think that we are inclusive, but we're not. Technically, we're not. They're just using the word. Because I was in an organization where they have a very strong DEI, but why do you have a DEI that has somebody that doesn't need inclusion to be the head of the DEI committee? I'm like, hold on a minute. He doesn't need to be the one in charge of the DEI committee, because he's white and he doesn't understand what we go through as African Americans. So why would he be the one who is in charge of the DEI? So I see it to be like, I want you guys to think you are inclusive, but technically you're not.
Well, you know, and the other thing you have to keep in mind too, gentlemen, is whenever they create these categories of multiculturalism, of inclusivity, of non-racialism, of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they always have to infiltrate it with white people to guarantee control and to guarantee that it'll never be effective anyway. And this is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons why white women are considered a minority. How can you be a member of the ruling group, the ruling class, and be a minority? So this is why they include white women. This is why they include homosexual white males. Same thing. How can you be a member of the ruling class, the race that dominates the country, and still be considered a minority? And increasingly what I see is non-English speaking Caucasians as well as immigrants, white Caucasian immigrants, Ukrainians, Afghanis, they will come over here and also be considered a part of people of color, which is another, very misleading term. And so that DEI, when you actually look at it, you could be part of a DEI initiative and look around the room, and most of the people in the room look just like Caucasians.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have noticed is that when you go to these places that are not Caucasian, but not identifying with being an African, they seem to have a whole different attitude towards black people now. It's like they are emboldened because Donald Trump won the election. What was that, where they had to respect no laws for black people? They had to respect black people. Wasn't that a law?
Well, the Civil Rights Bill is really the last true law we've had, that required any type of decent treatment of blacks. But that wasn't just for us, though. The Civil Rights Bill was for everybody. In fact, the Republicans refused to sign off on it, and even many of the Dixiecrats refused to sign off on it if LGBT race and gender, white women, needed to be included as protected classes. There's an unwritten rule in this country where you can't make laws just for black people. That's why you got an anti-Asian hate bill by name. Yeah. By name. You had an anti-Asian hate bill, but you'll never get that for black people. Whenever we get something, it's always for everybody. It has no power. If it's for everybody, it can't be for you. Even when you look at the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, that was a fraud. The Emmett Till anti-lynching bill is less than a page long. When have you ever seen legislation that's only a page long? And that's because all the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill did was modify a previous anti-lynching bill that was named after a Caucasian male who had been beaten up. I think he was murdered or either severely beaten for being a homosexual. And so the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, all it did was add race to that bill that was initially passed during the Obama years to protect white homosexuals from violence. So that wasn't even for us either. They don't pass bills for black people. And I think, gentlemen, this also, makes us have to have a conversation on whether there should be some sort of an age limit to the black people we send to the nation's capital by way of the U.S. Congress to advocate for black people. Because right now, we have more black people in Congress in American history. The most blacks ever elected, although Trump won and although the Republicans had their victories, more black people have been elected to this Congress than any other Congress in the history of the United States of America. So you got some new folks, some fresh blood, but the Congressional Black Caucus of the U.S. Congress still remains overwhelmingly an elders roundtable. Yeah. I believe the average age before the election, the average age was about 75. Wow. And so the question I ask you two as elders, young elders, are you comfortable knowing that the average age of the elected representatives of Black America to the U.S. government, the average age is 75? I'm looking at it from a warrior perspective, and I'm saying, do you have the energy And the commitment at that age to go into Capitol Hill and do battle with Donald Trump, do battle with the Supreme Court, do battle with the U.S. Department of Education, do battle with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that keep on taking our kids from our homes and giving them to these white people and white homosexuals to raise in the suburbs. Do you have the energy to do battle with your Democratic colleagues as well as your Republican opposition on behalf of black people? We love our elders, obviously, as Africans, but 75 being the average age of the Congressional Black Caucus, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we got to take a break. I'm thinking about that right now. When we come back, we're going to unwrap that thought, because I don't know if it's just the age or the intent of the person that's elected. If you're a young person, if you're brought as a young person, then what's the difference? You know, somebody can buy your signature. Then it don't matter if you're 20 or 80. You know, so that was one thought. But we got to take a break, and we're going to explore that again when we come back after this brief break. And we're back live here in the studios of 96.1 FM, WURDradio.com. And I had another thing to say about the age thing that Dr. Johnson had just mentioned. Some of our Congress people are over age. That's why I believe that it should be term limits for any of them. I think that there should be also campaign limits as to how much people can contribute to a campaign. Look at Elon Musk. You know, a lot of times people get wealthy and they may buy some homes, they may buy some cars, may buy some planes, may buy some boats, but that man done bought him a whole country. You know, and I think there should be some type of limit to that, because just like with the youngest president in Africa, in Burkina Faso, I believe it is, the youngest president, but I seen him hobnobbing with Vladimir Putin. I mean, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but supposing Vladimir Putin is pulling the strings on the youngest, so does the age really matter, or the intentions of the person in the office?
I agree with 99% of that, Baba. I would be more comfortable with the term limits than the age limit, and for the reasons you raised, but I would add this. If you are a 75-year-old first-term congressperson, I can have faith in you because you obviously are fresh, because you had to survive the campaign to begin with. So if you coming in as an elder, I would be more comfortable with you coming in as an elder than you growing into elderhood. And so that's why you're in office. And that's why I would agree with the term limits over the age limit, which means then half of them there need to retire, because most of them were there as young people, and they did a lot of fighting. They did good. They have a good historical record, most of them. But what happened, Baba, as you know, with age, and not so much with age, with time, you get so used to the comforts and the perks of being a U.S. congressperson. I mean, you're paid a good salary. You're given a lot of good perks. And, you know, when you surround yourself with those types of comforts for 2 or 3 decades, the fire in you begins to get extinguished out. And so I think a lot of them, the problem, kind of to your point, is not that they're in their 70s. Is that you came to Congress in your 30s, and now you're in your 70s. And you've been so softened up by your relationships with these different institutions of the white power structure that you're no longer the warrior you once were. And so I would support a term limit over an age limit. I could trust a 75-year-old rookie. I can't trust a 75-year-old career politician who's been there since 1980.
Yeah, because a lot of them, they get in there, they don't do nothing. And I'm not to badmouth Bob Casey here in Pennsylvania, but I heard somebody on the show ask him, well, because he's been was senator for a long time. They say, well, tell us some of the things that you've done as a senator. And the only thing that he could say is all of you, he said, well, he co-signed certain bills. I said, well, what about the bills that you created, initiated yourself? He didn't have any that I heard. So I said, all this time is in there, but and they just say they get used to the perks, they get used to the money, and they don't want to give it up. And you talk about the Black Caucus, where were they at? Why didn't they come out in force and make statements about the consequences of electing Donald Trump? If they knew that there was going to be a problem, why didn't they come out and make statements that this is from the Congressional Black Caucus, that we don't think this is that? I ain't hear them say nothing like that. Did you?
Now, they were very quiet.
That's what I'm saying.
I believe one of the reasons they were quiet is I think they kind of knew the pulse of the country. And I think that they didn't want to rock the boat because I think they felt Kamala was going to lose anyway. And they wanted to maintain some kind of a cordiality with the incoming president, understanding the type of personality he is. And I just think they kind of fell back, which is cowardly, because if you believe the people should have voted for Kamala Harris, and of course, you know my position, you wasn't going to win no matter who won anyway. But if you believe the people should have voted for Kamala Harris, you should have said that. Right. But that goes to that whole relationship over integrity thing that I think all elected officials suffer from. Because see, the biggest contradiction of an elected official is you are allowed to take campaign money from the people whose lives you have to legislate. That is an inherent conflict of interest. That is an inherent. I can take, to your point, you brought up Elon Musk, who was Donald Trump's single largest campaign contributor as an individual. He pumped so much money into Trump. It's like, could Donald Trump, if he had to, could he have Elon Musk arrested if he broke a federal law? I don't think he could. He put too much money into you. You are beholden to him. And a lot of our congressional black congresspersons, they also have a lot of money pumped into them by white folks, from conservatives and liberals. They may be Democrat, but it's perfectly legal to accept Republican campaign finance. And many of them do. And I think that's the reason why so many of them can't fight for black people, because they took money from both sides of the aisle. Therefore, they have been effectively neutralized.
So we got some questions, and also I want to recognize some participant on Facebook Live.
Oh yeah, we got a caller from Germany too. But what were you saying, Patrick?
Yeah, we have Joy Dixon online, and then we also have Joan Kemp. And we have Lucy Laurel also online. They have a question for Dr. Umar. It was about the education. The question was, didn't Bethel start some sort of pre-arrest diversion program in the schools?
Well, I didn't understand that. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, repeat that. I didn't understand that.
Didn't, what's the name? Bethel, I don't know if Bethel.
Oh, he's a school commissioner.
Yes, didn't he start a pre-arrest diversion program in the schools?
He may have started it. I'm not familiar, but here would be my question about his pre-arrest diversion program.
Yes.
See, we have to be careful about programs, because programs are not policy. Policy is permanent until it's changed. Program is temporary until the money runs out. And black people have to stop being distracted from the real issue with program. Let me give you an example. Look at all the juveniles we have arrested in Philadelphia, in jail, juveniles, under 18. Juvie Hall, Juvie Detention Center, adult prison, you name it. Let's say the mayor or city council or governor comes and say, we're going to start a program. We're going to put $20 million into a diversionary program to stop black youths from being arrested as juveniles, right? And let's say it's a pretty good program, whatever the measures and strategies and tactics are. But guess what? As soon as the $20 million is spent up, the program goes away because there's no more funding. And I think too often black people's critical thinking skills are hijacked by these programs. If it's a program, it's temporary. Please get it in your mind. Programs are eliminated as soon as their funding has been spent up. And they never give you a notification publicly that this program no longer exists, because they only create the program to do what? put a Band-Aid on a fire. I don't mind the program, but a program is not a solution because it's temporary. Where are the changes in the school district of Philadelphia's policy? That's the question. What changes in the permanent policy is he recommending or demanding that will lead to a reduction in arrests? Not programs. Programs are scams. I want to see a change in the policy.